5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Hello and happy Monday. Welcome to On Air with Douglas. Today's a very special Monday. Hope everybody is enjoying today's Young and the Restless. It's already aired over here on this side of the country, so we know that the Newman Ranch has been destroyed, thanks to Sharon Newman. So what better way to spend the afternoon after watching Young and the Restless than to chat with Eric Braeden. Eric, who plays Victor Newman on Young and the Restless for the past 30-plus years, is with me today. Welcome, Eric, to the show.
Hello, Douglas. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing over there?
I'm doing fine. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me and then some fans afterwards this afternoon.
You bet.
First, I want to welcome you to Twitter. You've been so good with responding to your fans on social media. What do you think about Twitter?
I never thought I would get into that. I thought that would be for my granddaughter's world, but it's very interesting, to be frank with you. It is, one gets an immediate response to what one did, and I think it is very interesting. And there are some very thoughtful remarks or tweets, and I must say I really appreciate. I've always appreciated people who watch the show and who express their opinions about it. And without fans, obviously, needless to say, our industry wouldn't exist. So in all the years that I've had public appearances here in Canada and in Europe, I must say 99.9% of people have always been very nice, very cordial, and very warm-hearted. So I'm very grateful to that.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, I would always see, the fans would see Victor on his cell phone, and I was always thinking, I wonder if he knows about Twitter, if he knows that that Eric can also tweet with his fans. And it seems like maybe Melody brought you this way to the Twitter world.
Well, she did. She tried to talk me into it, and someone else did. But Mel, yes, she was very, very persuasive. And so finally, in order to, I think, to correct some things that were said by others, I thought, well, this might be a means to do that.
Yeah, and it is a great way.
There have been some scurrilous comments in the past, and I think this is a way of correcting some of the gross misinterpretations of what happened,
Yeah. You recently tweeted a picture of two dogs, you laying on the ground with your two dogs. Are those your dogs?
The shepherd is mine, and the other one is a dog that Kaiser plays with sometimes, and they have become friends. So, yeah.
That's great. When you first joined Twitter not too long ago, I had tweeted you and said that you should write an autobiography because I'm sure you have many stories to tell. And is that something that the fans can expect at some time? Since,
I thought about that. And whenever I think seriously about it, I sort of get bored listening to my own story. It's my granddaughter, Tatiana, whenever she's over, she asks me to tell her a bedtime story, and inevitably it's about my childhood. That's what she wants to hear. And, maybe someday, there's something so utterly narcissistic about that as well, though. And I don't know. Part of me shies away from it. And part of me, because I've been prompted very often by various people to do it, I might eventually do it. We'll see.
Yeah, I spoke to Melody a couple months ago on my show here, and she said she was working on hers. And then I just read Gene Cooper's recently, who's coming to my show in a couple of weeks. So I'm excited to talk to her about that. And after spending this weekend researching and really diving into you, Eric Braeden, I've learned so much about you. So to hear it in your own autobiography would be amazing to do that if you decide to do that.
Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you. And I heard Jeannie's biography is pretty good. I've read some of it, haven't finished it, and it's rather well written, I must say. Yeah.
Yeah. So congratulations, Young and the Restless just celebrated its 10,000th episode. That had to be a huge, an amazing accomplishment and milestone for everybody on set.
To be honest with you, one doesn't, only when that sort of thing happens do you become aware of how long you've been doing it. And one just isn't, day to day, one is not aware of it. When I think back that I've been doing this for 32 years, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. However, on a day-to-day basis, you just don't think it, because you're always confronted with new situations, new dialogue, new scenes, and it is such a fleeting business. We do, as you know, 80 pages in one day, roughly, and that is such an enormous pace, unlike nighttime television or film. To give you an example, when we do 80 pages in one day, a nighttime television series will do between 8 and 12 pages a day. And a film like Titanic, for example, maybe 1 or 2 pages a day. We do 80. That means it is such an enormously rapid pace that you forget everything else. You have no time to really reflect upon it. You know what I'm saying? And nor do we have any long time off in the summer. None, as a matter of fact. And about a week or 2 weeks for Christmas, and that's it. So there's really no time to reflect upon what one has done. But that is why it is nice now with Twitter to have immediate contact with people and realize that what you do affects some people. And that is nice to know. Yeah.
Well, today, for United States viewers, we got to see the aftermath of the Newman Ranch being burned down. What was that like for you to know that was going to happen, being that was such a staple and for us viewers and characters for so long?
Well, I think it is taking an enormous risk in some ways. I personally, to be very frank with you, Melanie was very touched by it. She was very touched by it, I have to say. I was not as touched by it because I always felt it was a little creaky and getting a little old. Yeah. And no, I was not that attached to it. No, I honestly can't say that I was. Yeah. I always used to, when we were shooting, I said, damn it, let's revamp this place, It's a little old-fashioned now. But on the other hand, I knew that obviously people have become attached to that particular living room. So I had mixed feelings about it. But when you think about that kind of thing, I remember growing up during the war and seeing houses around me, including our own, destroyed. And, that leaves a devastating imprint. And so I know what Melody felt. And I think it was kind of risky to do it, but then life goes on,
Yeah. Well, currently, you've been through. Victor's been through a lot. Victor just got back from losing his memory and ended up in the L.A. harbors. Returned from the dead again, because Victor likes to do that every once in a while. Then Sharon burned down the Newman Ranch. So much is going on in Victor's life right now, and you're really playing an emotional, softer side recently. What do you think about playing that side of Victor versus the romantic lover and the ruthless businessman?
Yeah. I know. I have. The wonderful thing about the part is the fact that I was allowed to sometimes show a side that was more vulnerable. As I'm in personal life, I can be both. Yeah. And, depending upon the situation. So for a while, I think it's sort of a nice change that he, because of all the things that have happened, shows a little softer side. I personally would be affected by a lot of this stuff. But trust me, Victor will come back. No two ways about that. And in that sense, Victor Newman is like Eric Braeden, or Eric Braeden like Victor Newman. You come after me in one way, I'll come after you.
All right.
That is deeply within me, and that comes from growing up in a very tough time. Yeah. And losing my father early on, and my God, as kids we fought all the time, I think. And when you lose your father early, as I did when I was 12 years old, and grew up in post-war Germany, which was literally destroyed, you learn to fight back, or you go under. So it's deep within me to fight back. But that doesn't mean that I'm not vulnerable to a lot of things. Yeah. And obviously, the things that happened to Victor lately, or to his family, what saddens me in the Victor Newman story is the fact that he has such, complicated relations with his children. Because I love my son, love my grandkids, and adore them, and couldn't stand being at odds with them. Yeah. But Victor is. So if some people want to know how much of me is like Victor, well, there's some things, yes, they are similar, but in other ways, no. Yeah. Decidedly no. I would never have that long of a difficult relationship with my son. Never.
Yeah, fans really want to see you, Victor, and Adam, kind of get to a place like Nicholas and Victoria.
But you see, the thing is that's true, of course. But then what fans forget is, if we all got along, it would be deadly boring.
Oh, that's
you know what I'm saying? It's, in other words, obviously conflict is the very essence of drama. So if everyone just got along honky-dory, then you'd fall asleep. So the essence of what we do is based on drama and conflict. And the actors, Michael Mooney is great playing that part. He's very good playing that part. That is fraught with tragic potential. I know of relationships between fathers and sons that are very cold and very difficult. I, Eric Braeden, can't stand that. I personally have a close relationship with my son, always did have. And we have our differences here and there, but generally speaking, I respect him enormously and adore my granddaughters. And I just don't like discord for too long of a time, I personally couldn't be like that. And yet Victor Newman obviously has a rather complicated relationship with his family. And that is, if you know anything about psychology, you obviously realize that you remember that he grew up in an orphanage. That means he was abandoned early on. And that leaves indelible scars for the rest of your life, I'm sure. Yeah. And so you mistrust everyone. Victor Newman mistrusts everyone and would love to be loved and wants to love, but in the end very often doesn't trust it because he was abandoned at the age of 7 by his mother at an orphanage and left there. And boy, that must leave an indelible mark on someone's brain. So that explains Victor Newman. I think when Bill Bell wrote that storyline, I remember when I started YNR, I wanted to leave after about a year. And I said I was sick and tired of playing bad guys. I'd done it on nighttime television for so many years. It's dehumanizing after a while. And I was sick and tired of it. I was fed up. I wanted to leave the show. And then Bill and I sat down and I said, is there any way you can imbue this character with a past that explains why he is who he is? And then he came up with a brilliant storyline. The storyline of Victor having been left in an orphanage. And I remember doing that scene with Melody. Was on a before Christmas show. I forget when it was. Must have been 80, maybe 4 or 5, something like that. And I told her the story of my childhood experiences, being left in an orphanage. And the moment I did that, it opened floodgates in me. And I knew then that I wanted to continue playing that part because he had given it a complexity that had not been there before, and a kind of complexity that you cannot play at nighttime television. Nighttime television used to at least then be divided into good guys and bad guys. You were either or. And daytime is so wonderful because it shows the whole rainbow of emotions, of problems, of difficulties, and so you get a complexity in a character that you cannot usually get in nighttime television. You know what I'm saying?
One thing that fans cannot imagine is Genoa City without Victor Newman. Can we be rest assured that Victor's going to be around a little bit longer?
Well, in the end, that is obviously not my decision. But yes, I, signed another long-term deal, and I love the show, love the character, and love my co-workers. Obviously, very fond of Melody, and she and I work together very well. But I work together very well with Peter Bergman, and with Joshua Morrow, and with Michael Mooney, and with Emilia, who plays Victoria, and so it's and Christian Leblanc, and all of them. I mean, they're a wonderful cast, and we really have a great cast, I must say.
Yeah.
I look at the show sometimes and say, "Damn, this is a very good cast." So there's no reason for me to entertain anything else at the moment.
Yeah. I read Michael Maloney's book on William J. Bell. He mentions that the role of Victor was only intended for a short arc, and when he heard and saw you, he realized he'd keep you longer. How did the role come up for you, coming from prime time, doing guest stars, to daytime? Why the switch?
Well, I'd done films, I'd done Broadway, I'd done, guest starred on more television shows than probably anyone at the time, and to be quite frank with you, I was tired of it. I was tired of playing. When you guest star, you play nothing but bad guys. And I'd had it. I was just burned out. And then someone suggested to read for, they asked about me doing that role on Y&R, and I had no idea what a soap was. I'd never seen a soap before. So I asked an old friend of mine, Dabney Coleman, that wonderful actor.
Yes.
And he and I used to play tennis together, and I said, "Listen, what's a soap?" And they offered this thing to me. What do I do? He says, "Do it, you'll love it." And based upon that recommendation, because I respect him a lot as an actor, I sort of thought, well, I'll do it for 3 months. And I signed a deal for 3 months. I didn't want to do it any longer. And the rest is history. So 32 years later.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Yep. William Bell is the father of the soap genre. He created 2 brilliant shows, and he worked on several other ones. He really knew how to tell a story. There's no one like him in the business. What did you personally learn from Mr. Bell that you can share with us?
Well, it is very important that when you do something in life that you're good at, you stay with it, and you hone it, and you file away at it, and you improve upon it. It's one of the hardest working men I've ever known. He would be in the studio sometimes at 4 a.m, and he lived and breathed that show. And I learned a lot through this whole soap medium, I must say. And Twitter now allows me to even see the effects of what one does more immediately. It's a good question. I miss Bill, I must say. When he ran the show, there was one boss and that was it. And he was in that sense sort of like Victor Newman. He would not tolerate anyone coming in and giving him any advice. He just knew what he wanted, and that's it. And I respect him greatly for that. I respect him greatly, period.
Yeah.
And he was married to a wonderful wife, Lee Phillip Bell, a sweet, sweet lady, very bright, but what a lady. What a lady, I must say. And they obviously have raised 3 great children, and Bill Jr., and then Bradley, who runs Bold and Beautiful, and Laura Lee, one of the sweetest women I ever worked with, and kind and generous and unpretentious, and so I have nothing but respect for the family, I must say.
Yeah. And us fans are thankful for Lee's input, because she brought in a lot of the social issues over the years, like AIDS and homelessness, and the different stories. And that's really, I think what keeps a lot of viewers there, because we can relate to it. It's not one of those shows like Sunset Beach or some of the Passions, which is like aliens and spaceships and all this other stuff. This is realistic.
In other words, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
So the other stuff. In other words, what Y&R has always done and done well is to deal with real problems and deal with people's real emotions, so that people who view the show obviously can identify with a lot of the issues, and they know they've gone through similar stuff.
Yeah.
And Lee Phillip Bell, she had a talk show in Chicago, pre-Oprah, and so she was very aware, very attuned to contemporary social problems, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, with the new team, Josh is back. Josh Griffith is back, and then with Jill Farron Phelps set in place at Y&R, are you excited and optimistic about the future of Young and Restless now?
Well, I mean, I've always been. One is excited with whoever comes there, and excited is too strong of a term. One waits and sees, and so far they have not disappointed. But I like Maria Bell very much as well. I like the other writers prior to that as well. I think writing for this genre is arguably one of the most difficult things to do in our business. It's horrendous.
Yeah.
I mean, I have such respect for the writers that I cannot really. Do I think some of them may have gone the wrong direction here and there? Sure, but then that is your purview as a writer to attempt something new, but to do this day in, day out for about 25 characters. Imagine that every single day. You got to come up with some new story, new dialogue. You got to be aware of what contracts the actors have, how many times a week they are supposed to be on the show, etc. So it's a very difficult, very, very difficult job, and one that most of them don't get enough credit for.
Yeah.
So I have respect. My son is a screenwriter, and I just have nothing. I know how hard he works, and I can only imagine how difficult it must be to spin this yarn day in, day out for as many as 25 characters. That's extraordinary. So I have nothing but respect for the writers.
Yeah. I started my show in December, as I was telling you before, and I originally wanted it just for a sounding board for fans to call in and talk about their soaps, their favorites, what they want, et cetera, et cetera. And then I decided I thought, well, I'll see if I can get any of the cast members to come. Well, 100 cast members later, I've talked to people from all daytime of shows that are on air and off the air, and I've spoke to most of your on-screen wives, Melody, Signe, Barbara, Crampton, Eileen, Maura, and even Sharon Case. I've talked to I think everybody except Meg, who played Julia.
Yeah.
When you first started the storyline with Melody and Nikki was working at the Bayou, did you imagine that she was the one for Victor and would up being married and remarried so many times to this date?
No, I had no idea. I had no idea. None. You know, when you're in this business, you do not prognosticate anything. You just don't know. You literally don't know. You wait and see how things develop. And I have never interfered with writers, contrary to what some people have claimed. I suggested one storyline in 32 years, and that was it. And otherwise, I may sometimes call about one thing or the other, but never to determine a storyline nor suggest it, to be frank with you. And I've done that with one, and that's it. And
which storyline was that one?
There was a long time. Well, let's not talk about that. I don't want to talk about that.
Okay.
That's okay. If you don't mind,
no, that's fine.
So, yeah.
Young and Restless can be seen in over 30 foreign countries, over 5 continents, so it's probably nowhere in the globe that you can go that you're not recognized, right?
That is a blessing overall, to be honest with you. I would say, again, in 99% of all cases, that has been a blessing. And when you walk the streets of Paris or Istanbul or Tel Aviv or Toronto or Montreal or anywhere here in America, of course, it's very nice. People are very nice. Very, very nice. And I appreciate it deeply.
Yeah.
So, it's odd to hear your own voice in a different language. in Turkish, for example.
Uh-huh.
But it makes you be so aware of what Hollywood, the power that Hollywood has, the power that television has, the power that American television has. It's extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. You walk the side street somewhere in Istanbul, and suddenly, 5 veiled women come up and start blushing, and you can see it almost through the veils, and talking and excitedly and all that, and you say, my God Almighty, this damn thing plays everywhere. And the kibbutzes of Israel, and streets of Paris, the Parisians who are usually intellectually rather snobbish, and suddenly, the whole demeanor breaks down and says, "Oula, Victor." It's remarkable. I mean, and it makes you feel very blessed, and I have a different reaction than some people may. I'm just stunned by it. I'm awed by it, I got to tell you. But it is very nice, no question.
Yeah.
So it opens doors.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah.
When you were given the breakdown of the role of Victor Newman when you first started, what was it initially? What was
I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. No, I thought this is more of the same bad guy nonsense that I played for so many years, and was not particularly intrigued by it, not at all. And as I said, I started being very intrigued when the night that I told Melody or Nikki in the old living room about my past. Then I knew I was going to stay, because it gave this character the complexity that I had always longed for in acting and had never really been able to do,
Now, Victor was, as you mentioned, was in an orphanage, so we really didn't see a lot of on-screen family. We saw the brother Matt, and then we saw your father, Victor's father, later in years.
George Kennedy.
Yes, George Kennedy came.
Who had abandoned his family, right?
Yes. Speaking of Matt, have you ever seen Robert again, the guy who played your brother?
Never again. Never again. But George Kennedy, of course. I had him in the film I did called The Man Who Came Back. And did you see that film?
Yes, I did. I actually bought it. As soon as I saw it was you was in it, I had to go check it out.
Well,
not really into those type of films, but I did enjoy this.
I appreciate it. And George Kennedy came to mind after he had played my father on the show, and I've the greatest and deepest respect for that man. What I tell you, when we did that film, he was already in his 80s, and he's a big man. He's my God, close to 300 pounds. He's about 6'4", just a big man. And what a gentleman, and what a professional actor. We were filming in a lot of heat, and he was out there in the sweltering heat, and did all kinds of scenes. I mean, I have just the deepest respect for him. And of course, he told all these wonderful stories about old Hollywood, which I still partly remember, but he, of course, remembered much more. And I just have the deepest respect for him.
Yeah. One person who played like a family was Victor's best friend, Colonel Douglas Austin, played by the wonderful Michael Evans.
Yes.
What was it like working with him?
Michael was a Brit, and he was a great sense of humor, and that was fun. I mean, he just had a great sense of humor, great timing, and it was great to work with him. Yeah.
He is missed.
I must say I've missed him sometimes. He just was a great sounding board, and I think it worked very well. He was the only one who could tell Victor what to do or what he did wrong, and he unfortunately just didn't want to do it anymore. I mean, it's I have enormous admiration and deep affection for Jeannie Cooper, who Catherine, and that she at her age still learns all these lines and does it well and always in good cheer, and I admire her greatly.
Yeah. Well, as I was telling you, I was watching one of your interviews online. It was about a 3-hour interview, and I learned a lot of stuff. And I'm going to put the link to that interview up for fans to watch because it's really a great insight into your life.
That was with the who was that with again? With the
Archives of American Television.
American Television. I see. Okay.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And I learned that you came to the United States from Germany as a young man aboard an ocean liner and had your first American meal, a hamburger and a milkshake, at the Empire State Building.
You bet.
You must have been quite relieved to see the Statue of Liberty inside. And so when you got here, did you have
it was not a question of relief. It was a question of you must remember, I grew up in a democracy, so I did not grow up in Hitler Germany. I grew up in the consequences of Hitler Germany, which wasn't too pretty because we grew up with, with bomb craters all around and homes destroyed and family members and veterans coming home from the Russian front or the Western front with one arm or no legs or one leg and blind. And I mean, as a kid, I saw more than any kid should see. And so, but I grew up in a democracy. Germany obviously became a democracy in 1949. So it wasn't that I escaped tyranny at all, not at all. Mm-hmm. To me, coming to America was adventure. Mm-hmm. And I had a cousin. She came from Hamburg, and she was a doctor, and she taught at the Medical University of Texas in Galveston. And she came over one day to Germany when I was 17. I just won the German Youth Championship in track and field and discus and javelin and shot put with my team, and I was always good at languages. And she said, "Do you want to come to America?" I said, "Well, that sounds interesting." And long story short, a year later, I was on board the Hanseatic, and with a suitcase in my hand, and I said goodbye, a very tearful goodbye to my family. And I must say, one of the most difficult moments of my life was that departure from a country that I loved and a family that I loved, and so a girlfriend that I loved, and 18 years old. And at that time, one didn't fly back and forth as frequently as one can do now. So when you left, and you really left, Yeah. And then on board that ship, I wanted to impress an older woman. She was 25, I think. She was at the bar at night, and so I bought my first pack of cigarettes, stupidly. I never smoked before. I wanted to impress her and seem older. So, and I started smoking then. Anyway, when I came to 5 days on the ocean, then we came to New York Harbor at about 6:30 in the morning, and my God, for someone who comes from a village in Europe, and suddenly you see the skyline of New York that's overwhelming. It gives you goosebumps. And then we landed in the 34th Street docks, and I had to see the Empire State Building, so went up to the Empire State Building, had my first cheeseburger and chocolate milkshake, and I loved it. And I was picked up by that cousin's sister, who was also my cousin, Wiebke Thompson, who was a psychiatrist by profession, and she had also come to America in the 50s, early 50s, and we had a meal up there, and I asked her if the chocolate milkshake and cheeseburger were healthy. And she says, "Oh, yes." And of course, like most doctors, she didn't know a damn thing about nutrition. So I had nothing but cheeseburgers and milkshake for a long time afterwards. So,
you still like them now?
I love it. Every so often. My son and I, we went to see the Laker game yesterday, and afterwards I said, "Let's go have a hamburger." And we had a juicy hamburger. So, yeah, every so often I do.
Yeah. So how did the name Eric Braeden come about? Because your birth name is Hans Gudegast, is that right?
Hans Gudegast. Yeah.
Gudegast, okay.
Gudegast. And in fact, my son's name is Christian Gudegast, and he writes under that name. And anyway, I did a film at Universal Studios called Colossus, the Forbin Project. We did that in 1968 or 69. And I started it, and it was my first starring role in a film. And have you seen that film?
No, but I'm gonna see what I can do to get it. So
It's a very interesting Colossus, the Forbin Project, Forbin, and it's a damn interesting film. And Spielberg used to come to the set at Universal every day to watch. It was directed by Joe Sargent, who has directed other films. And Spielberg was interested in how the film was shot. And it's a science fiction film, ahead of its time. And but I did a screen test for it, and Lou Wasserman, who was then running Universal Studios, the most powerful man in this town, said he wanted me for the part, but no one with a German name would star in an American picture. And I knew of that prejudice, obviously because of both World Wars. So I was first most reluctant to change my name, but I was doing a film in Spain at the time with Raquel Welch and Burt Reynolds and Jim Brown called 100 Rifles. And the call came in from my agency saying Lou Wasserman wants you very badly to star in this film, but you've got to change your name. And I said, no, under no circumstances, and hung up, and then discussed it with my wife afterwards. And she told me, she says, a lot of, you and I have discussed it a lot, and obviously there is that lingering prejudice. Maybe it's time to face reality. So finally I sort of agreed, and in my mind, and I took the first part of the village I'm from in Germany called Braeden, and the first part Braeden, and Eric is a name in my family, and obviously is a sort of a Northern European name. Could be British, could be Swedish, could be anything. So I had to have something that I could relate to that had to do with me, because I'm very proud of my roots, and had I given myself another name, I would have sort of felt like a traitor in a sense. Do you know what I'm saying? It's I'm close to my family, and was close to my father, and so I needed something that I could hold on to, and so I took it from the village in which I grew up. There you are. But take a look at the film Colossus, the Forbin Project. It's an interesting science fiction film.
Yeah.
After which they approached me for James Bond.
As Bond?
Yeah. Cubby Broccoli approached me. He had only seen that film and had not seen the Rat Patrol and all that. Didn't know I was from Germany. And no one ever knew unless I told them. And thought I'd somehow belonged to the British Commonwealth. And we had a luncheon. We discussed the whole thing. And then when he says, do you still have a British passport? I said, no, I have a German passport, an American passport. He says, well, that's like a curtain went down in front of his face, And he then told the agency that no one who was not a citizen of the British Commonwealth would ever play James Bond. So that was the end of that. Yeah.
That would have been, we would have never had Victor Newman, I'm sure.
Interesting. You never know where this life takes you.
Yeah, that is true.
And primarily this profession.
Yeah. In that interview I was watching with the Archive of American Television, I had to laugh because you shared your story of when you first learned about American cursing and how you loved it and was fascinated by that. Do you mind sharing a little of that with us?
I'll never forget. I came to this town I came to America with $50 in my pocket, and I came to L.A. via Montana, where I was a cowboy for a while, and then I got a scholarship at the University of Montana, Missoula, in track and field and discus, javelin, and shot put. Long story short, I finally came to L.A. via a river trip in Idaho on the Salmon River, the river of no return. I was the first one with an American guy, Bob McKinnon, to go up and down the Salmon River. No one had ever done it before, up and down, not just down, but up and down, against the rapids and down again. And we made a documentary film with which we came to L.A. It was shown here at a press conference, and I did all kinds of interviews on television shows about that trip. And then I ended up here in L.A. We each got $500 for the trip, and that's all the money I had. And obviously I began to look for jobs and started parking cars. and then I found another place to wash dishes. And then I worked for Beacon's Moving Furniture, and move pianos and furniture. And I remember, never forget. I remember the time of day. It was in the afternoon, and I remember the stairs. And it was somewhere in West LA. We had to carry up a fridge, and this crusty old American guy was on top of the fridge. He was pulling, and I was at the bottom holding on. And we were slowly moving it up the stairs, and the old lady stood on top of the stairs and said, "Now don't touch this, and don't touch that, and don't ruin the paint job." And he suddenly said, "Lady, will you shut the up?" And you know what? I won't say the word on television, on radio, but will you shut the up?
Yeah.
You can imagine the verb. So I thought, wait a minute, he's turning a verb to fornicate into a noun. How does that work? And I was trying to translate it into German. I'll never forget that moment. I loved it. I love American swear words. I love it. And but I would not burden you with it here on the show. So I love it though. And to swear in English is different than to swear in German or in Spanish or in French. But I think here in America it's great. I love it. I love a lot of the expressions.
Yeah. I also learned that a lot of who you are today is based on your discipline from sports and history of being involved in discus and javelin and soccer and tennis.
Right.
Do you play tennis now, or auto racing, or any of the stuff that you used to?
I play tennis, not quite as often. I go through phases. And I used to, as I said, grow up in track and field, but we also played ice hockey at the time as a kid, and obviously some street soccer. But ice hockey, I got my worst sprain concussion, and then street soccer, and then mostly track and field in a serious way. Won the German Youth Championship, and with my team. And then here in America, started in track and field at the University of Montana, and later when I came here to LA, I started playing soccer, and because I got paid for it, and ended up playing for a team called the Maccabees. It's the only Jewish team in the town here, and I'm not Jewish. I grew up as a Protestant, but a lot of the management were German Jews, and they spoke German, and they offered me pretty good money to play for the team, and I was also determined to eradicate this notion that Germans are genetically predisposed to anti-Semitism. Nothing could be further from the truth. And Jews were more successfully assimilated in Germany prior to Hitler than anywhere in the world. More assimilated than here in America, more than in England, more than in France. People forget that. And Hitler undid all that, as he undid a lot of things. Long story short, I played for that team, and it was an interesting cultural experience, I must say. And we had 7 or 8 Israelis on the team, and 2 Brazilians, and 2 Mexicans, and 2 Ethiopians, all top players. And then I was the token German along with someone else. And we won the U.S. Championship in 1973. And the team won the championship 5 times. The Open Cup, it's called, and more than any other team ever since. So obviously, I was working full time during that time on various shows, but at night we had practice. So sports have been, I must say, primarily in Germany when I grew up. My experience in sports helped me get over the rather depressing. After my father died, we lived in absolute poverty, and I had to work every summer on farms to earn my pocket money. I've earned my own money since I was 12 years old, and never been supported by anyone. No pocket money, nothing. We had to earn that all ourselves. Work on farms, usually in the summer. And sports was the only thing I really looked forward to, that and girls. And so, yeah, it has meant a great deal to me. And then here, winning the U.S. Championship in soccer also meant a great deal to me.
Oh, I bet.
And so I'm addicted to working out. But now, when here in L.A., I started going to the ghetto gyms. There was a gym called the Hoover Street Gym, and where all the black fighters were. And Kenny Norton worked out then, and a lot of people did. And was in the ghetto of L.A., and then I went there, and they were always very, very nice, and they respected the fact that I came down there and boxed with them. And so then I did that for a while, and then I just do something every day, Then I started Olympic lifting, which we did for a while in track and field. It's not the Schwarzenegger kind of lifting, which is purely narcissistic stuff, but it's Olympic lifting, where you do clean and jerks and deadlifts and overhead presses. I won't bore you with the details of that. Then I played tennis a lot, and I love sports. And had I grown up in America, I think I would have loved to have played football. I love football, love it, and watch it, and like basketball a lot. But I must say, football is my favorite game over here. Internationally, obviously, I'm a huge soccer fan, and big fan of a number of teams. Manchester United, obviously, Arsenal, Chelsea, then the German team Bayern München, and my team from Hamburg, and then a big fan of Real Madrid from Spain and Barcelona, and the Italians, AC Milan and Juventus, and so I like teams from all over. I don't have any. I was a big fan of the LA Rams and the LA Raiders as long as they played here in LA. And when they left, I was, along with a lot of Los Angeles citizens, very upset that they had left. So I lost my passion for one particular team. But I follow, obviously, I'm an old fan of the old NFC, Chicago Bears and Green Bay Packers and the Vikings and the 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys, and the old-time teams still mean more to me because they were playing when I came here in 1959, 1960. So, but now I watch individual players more. I'm a huge fan of Peyton Manning. I have just nothing but the deepest respect for him. Don't know him. But after what he has gone through with his neck surgery, to play as brilliantly as he does, I just take my hat off. And I remember his father. I think he played Archie Manning. Didn't he play for University of Alabama, I think?
I'm
not mistaken. So. Yeah, and then he later on played shortly for the Saints or whatever. I'm not sure. Anyway, to have raised two sons who are that successful, that's remarkable. And then I was a big fan of Brett Favre. I think Brett overstayed his welcome a little bit. He probably should have, when he left the Green Bay Packers, he should have quit. But I have great respect for him. What a quarterback. And I go back to Joe Namath, and then Dan Marino. These were, and Roger Staubach, and these were all great players and quarterbacks. And I worked with Jim Brown, one of the great running backs of all time, one of the great athletes of all time, and met Tony Dorsett, and then met O.J. Simpson before O.J. got into trouble. And so then I met Ray Butkus, who used to play with the Chicago Bears. I remember asking Jim Brown once who he feared to play against the most, and he said Dick Butkus. And when I met Butkus, what a powerful character. He had hands like a toilet seat, and a head like a bucket. Just a big man, and he was fearsome. I remember Ray Nitschke of the Green Bay Packers, and the Steel Curtain, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and so I have a lot of memories of football, and I respect a lot of players who are playing now. Look at the Clay Matthews from the Packers. What a wild man. He's incredible. Ray Lewis, fantastic. And Randy Moss, the wide receiver. So I like a lot of football. And, of course, Brady, quarterback of the Patriots. What a fantastic team. What a fantastic quarterback. So now let's hope that the Jets will get their thing in gear,
Yeah.
Make up their minds between Tebow and Sanchez. Anyway,
yeah.
There you are.
Do you get to go back and visit your family in Germany often?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do about every 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I read that they don't get Young and the Restless in Germany. Is that true?
No, they don't. It's kind of ironic. It's very popular in France and Italy and other countries, and never really took hold in Germany.
Oh,
they made the mistake of playing it there in the morning and thinking they could imitate America in that sense. It just didn't work. Yeah.
Are they able to see your work, though, through other means?
I have no idea, and I don't really care. It's kind of nice to go and not be recognized. Sometimes you just want peace and quiet. I go to the countryside in which I grew up, and just get on the bicycle with my brothers or whatever, or with old friends, and I bullshit with the old farmers on the fields where I used to work. And I love that. I love that, to do that undisturbed,
Yeah, there's got to be that one place you can go to have some solace to yourself.
Oh, yeah. And then, you go down memory lane. As kids, we used to bicycle all across northern Germany and, during vacation.
Yeah.
And very fond memories of it, yeah.
I bet. Well, listen, I could talk to you for hours. I was so nervous beforehand, but you've made me feel so comfortable.
It's very nice. It's very nice to do what you're doing, Doug. It's that's great.
And I've got some fans that want to talk to you, and so we'll do that, and then we'll wrap this up so you can get back to your day.
Go for it.
No problem. First up is Anthony from Connecticut. Go ahead.
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Hey, Anthony. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I just wanted to call and just thank you for all the years of portraying Victor and the Young and the Restless. You are, one of a kind. There's no other actor that could ever play, the role. And I do want to just thank you. I've written you over the years, and you are always very kind to respond, and always send my magazines that I sent to you, and you always used to send them back to me, and I just wanted to thank you for that. My question is, a lot of scenes you've played over the years, must have stayed with you. I'm just curious what, certain scenes that you have fond memories of. One for me is the scene where you play with Peter Bergman and Victor collapses and Jack kind of walks over him and just kind of leaves him, laying there. I thought that scene said so much about their relationship at the time. Are there any scenes that have just stayed with you?
That's a good question. Anyway, thank you for calling and thank you for saying those nice things. Yes, there are. That scene obviously is a memorable scene. I have always enjoyed working with Peter Bergman. That enmity between him and me works very well. The scene that I remember the most, always comes to mind very quickly, is when Victor first meets his mother. He doesn't trust that it is his mother, played by Dorothy McGuire, and who passed away recently, by the way. And she comes to his house, and he doesn't trust it is indeed his mother until she talks about a hole in the sweater. And only she could have known that. And she knew I had that when she left me at the orphanage. And I had no idea how to play that scene before. I had no clue. And when we played it, it just, something happened that it was a mixture of anger and sadness and fury and loneliness and all kinds of things all came into me at once. I will never forget that scene. That, and then the scene with George Kennedy when I encounter him as my father. And then, of course, there are countless scenes I did with Melody.
Yes.
And one of the scenes I alluded to earlier, where I tell her about my childhood. And, those are But I would say the scene with the mother, for one reason or another, really touched a chord in me.
Yeah.
And then on other shows, I enjoyed doing the Gunsmoke. I did 4 or 5 Gunsmokes and enjoyed those enormously. They were the greatest people to work with, very professional. And when James Arness, who played the lead, when he laughed like a horse. He was a huge man, about 6'6", 6'7". And when he started laughing, we couldn't do scenes. And then the Mary Tyler Moore Show. They were just the nicest people to work with. And I knew Ted and Ed Asner and those guys before, and Gavin MacLeod, and Mary, she was just wonderful to work with. It was a great show to do. So those are some of my favorite moments, yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for taking my phone call, and as always, keep up the show, you know.
You bet. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Yep.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thanks, Doug.
All right. Next up is Jamel from New York. Go ahead.
Hi, Doug. Hello, Mr. Braeden.
Hello, Janelle. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You know what? I would also say what the first caller say is, for me, I think this year that you've been, this work and these storylines has been wonderful. I think that the scene, especially with your daughter, the woman who played your daughter on the show,
right,
has been very complex. And I think that you'll probably be up for Emmy next year. I just have to put it up there because the scenes have been it's been wonderful.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I was just going to say that, the home has burned down, and I watch these shows when I get home from work on TiVo, and the home has burned down, and he's lost his the company temporarily because we know as the audience he's always going to, end up on top.
You bet.
Oh yes. But
he's going to come back.
Yeah, as the actor playing this just wonderful character, where do you want Victor to go in 2013? Is he going to be more family-oriented or more business?
To be honest with you, I don't know what the writers have in store for me, and I will play what they write. Hopefully he, for a while, will devote his time to his family a bit more. But again, I come back to what I said at the onset of the show, that without conflict there is no drama.
That's
so
right.
Obviously, inevitably, you and I know that eventually the shit is going to hit the fan again, and things are going to get rough again, So I wonder how long this peaceful interlude, will last. We'll see.
Yeah.
Let's enjoy it while it lasts.
Oh, I'm enjoying it. I swear that with you and Amelia, I think of her name.
She's wonderful to work with.
Yes.
I adore working with her. I really do.
Those scenes are very, very powerful, and it's just wonderful, very wonderful. I think everybody that you've worked with,
she's such
the lady,
a sweet person to work with. She's just a wonderful person to work with. Has a great disposition.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and Doug, you're doing a great job, and thank you, Mr. Braeden.
Thank you. All right.
Thank
you for calling.
All right. Up next is Dan from New Jersey. Dan, go ahead.
Hi, Eric. Hi, Doug.
Hi.
Hey, Dan.
I am well, and I'm very excited to be talking to you, Eric. I've been watching this show basically since out of the womb, so I'm a huge fan of YNR, and I'm a very huge fan of you.
I appreciate it.
What actor or character would you like to see come back to YNR that you think it would be a good interaction with Victor, and that you would like to play with?
Well, I must say I hated to see Eileen go. Eileen Davidson, who played Ashley. Mm-hmm. I hated to see her go. I respected her enormously, and I hated to see her go, to be frank with you. Beyond that, I thought the scenes with Michael Evans, who played Douglas, were always fun to do. And help me, but I can't think of anything else right now.
Is there anyone from any other shows that you would like to ever work with? Any other soap operas or anyone?
Well, working with Jeannie Francis was very nice. She is very good at what she does, a very kind person, and a damn good actress. And she was great fun to work with, I must say. Yeah. Beyond that, no, I can't really say that. My extent of watching television is I watch our shows sometimes, and I mostly watch sports and the more serious news and documentaries, and that's about the extent of it, you know. And I'm a huge fan of Seinfeld. I watch Seinfeld just to laugh. At the end of the day, my wife and I watch Seinfeld.
Awesome. Oh, it's been an honor to speak to you, Eric.
All right, Dan.
Can't wait to tell my mom.
All right, man. Be cool. Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
Dan.
you so much.
Bye-bye.
Uh-huh.
Bye-bye.
All right. Dorothy from Maryland, go ahead.
Hi, Eric.
Hello, Dorothy.
It's very wonderful to talk to you.
Same to you. All right.
I have a question for you. Are you surprised by the intensity of your fans that you, the Y&R, can keep fans for 30 years?
I am surprised, but I'm very, very grateful that is so, you know, and I think that is testimony to the various writers we have had on the show, and to the other actors and everyone who works on the show. But we have a lot of very good actors on the show, and obviously the writers have mostly to do with it. So I'm very grateful for that. And yeah, am I surprised? You bet. I really am. That people have stayed with us that long.
I so appreciate hearing your story because I've been watching since '73, and certainly the Y&R characters become very real to us. And then, we read about you and we read about your personal lives, and you become like family. So to hear your story is just terrific. So thank you very much for sharing that.
Well, thank you for calling, Dorothy. That's very nice.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Bye-bye
Thank
now.
you, Dorothy.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we have another Maryland call. This time is Debbie from Maryland. Go ahead.
Hello, Mr. Newman.
Hello, Debbie. How are you?
This is a thrill of a lifetime. I cannot even believe that I'm speaking to you.
That's nice.
I know that you say that you have to continue the drama constantly, but could Nikki and Victor please? I think they've had enough drama for a billion lifetimes. Please, 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 please keep them together.
Yes.
It's been one of the joys of the past month to see the last couple of weeks end with Nikki and Victor on a Friday afternoon. Happy.
That's
happy,
so nice.
thrilled.
I must say that is really nice to hear, and therefore I must say I'm grateful that Mel talked me into the Twitter thing, because I get a lot of that feedback. That's interesting.
Yeah. My 72-year-old mother and I, who I'm 50 now, have been watching since the very beginning, and we're just lifetime fans. And we were both just calling each other back and forth on Friday, saying, "Oh my God, they're finally back together again." My main question, I guess, is there any talk at all around the set there about possibly making Tag and Grab real? And that we could possibly have a fire sale, because I would love to have something from the Newman Ranch.
That is so funny. I have no idea, to be honest with you.
Tell them that they need to have a fire sale, and they need to sell everything from that set, because I would buy so much of it. I can't even.
Oh my God, that is funny. I think women are very attached to. I think women are more attached to homes and places like that, don't you?
I actually have a green Chippendale sofa just like that in my living room.
Oh, my God. Yeah, well, to be honest with you, to be very frank with you, I used to come in sometimes and I said, damn it, it's so damn old, this place. It belongs in the Smithsonian, you know. And so when are we going to revamp this place? But I understand how people become attached, and Melody was very attached to it. She was rather upset when it burned down. I must say, I too realized it was sort of an end of something. But then people go through that.
Well, you should go onto YouTube and just type in Newman Ranch Memories and look at all of the videos that are posted, and you will cry when you see the transformation of that room over the years, and you and Melody through the years. You know, long hair, short hair, young, old. It's just wonderful. And I mean, I cried all weekend because someone's been posting all these videos up there of just how the room has changed, and we finally saw, you know, Victoria's bedroom in one year, and we finally saw the ranch and you riding through the woods to go meet Ashley, and it just there were scenes that they were very rare that you got to see outside that room. But
well, I certainly hope that they will rebuild the ranch house, and
it just seems like all the kids are living on the property. The main house has to be rebuilt.
Yes, yes, exactly. So, but
thank you very much.
That's very nice of you. I mean, that's very interesting to hear, and people were that attached to it, and that's nice to hear. And that's why I said I am glad that I started Twitter now, because I'm getting that kind of feedback, you know.
Well, just jump onto YouTube and do a search for Newman Ranch Memories, and you'll relive all of it with us. Thank you very much.
See, when you are, let me just quickly add to this, when you're in the business that we are in, you become so cynical about a lot of it, and it is very important to be in touch with fans who are not cynical about it, because we as actors obviously think about, you know, the business, and you never know how long people will be on a show, because you see all kinds of people suddenly they're gone, and so I never really allow myself the luxury of feeling any sense of permanence in our business. I've been an actor since 1962. I've seen so many people come and go, you have no idea. And it's so, you constantly keep up your fighting spirit to survive in this business. And I don't allow myself really to become attached to too many things, because it becomes too painful to then let go of it. Do you know what I'm saying?
We all cried with Melody last weekend. We all cried.
Yes, well, and I cried with her. Yes. Anyway, so I appreciate what you're saying, and but I have a feeling that they will rebuild that house, you know.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And if they didn't burn all of it, we would like to buy some of it. They can post it on eBay.
I will tell them about it. You say hello to your mother.
Thank you.
Okay.
She'll love that.
Debbie.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye. All right, we're going to take one more call so we can wrap up this hour with Eric. So Chris from Denver, you're the last call. Go ahead.
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Hey, Chris. How are you doing?
Good. I'm a third generation watcher of Young and the Restless. Been watching it since 1986 in my family, and there's 4 generations of fans total. I loved hearing you talk about the NFL earlier, because I've often felt that the only fans more passionate than soap fans are football fans.
Right. And
I just wanted to talk a little bit about the show. Like in the last probably 6 years, I really felt like a lot of it changed in the year after Bill Bell Sr. passed. Right. You guys talk a lot about the state of the industry on the set and where soaps are going and what you guys need to be doing to stay relevant.
Yes, inevitably one does. But to be honest with you, as actors, we have very little influence over where a storyline is going, and these discussions obviously happen between networks and the writers and Sony, and I'm sure that they discuss all that. So, but do we sometimes? Yes, of course we do, because it affects us. Yes, certainly, and sometimes with a certain amount of trepidation. You know, you see the soaps around you go the way they have gone, and it's substituted, I think, with a lot of bullshit. So, you know, so-called reality shows, I mean, give me a break. Anyway, I don't want to talk about that. I'm against those things. Being a proud member of the Screen Actors Guild and AFTRA, I'm against all those cheapy shows where they don't really Well, the actors, they're not even actors, supposedly. I don't know what they are. And,
right.
I think it's an insult. Anyway, such it is.
Right. And one more question. You've often mentioned that you don't get starstruck, but you're a big fan of Meryl Streep. Would you ever use the opportunity to work with her if you had the option to?
I certainly would. My God, I'm a huge
She's
fan.
amazing.
I think she is.
Yeah.
If ever
She's an incredible
the term
actress.
genius applied to anyone in our business, it applies to her.
Absolutely.
I used to work with, years ago, one of my first films was with Marlon Brando, who was a similarly gifted actor. And but I would say Meryl Streep is about the height of what you can do in our business. She's extraordinary. Just extraordinary.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking my call today.
You're welcome, man. You guys you used to have a great quarterback with John Elway, and now you're Peyton Manning, another great quarterback.
Oh, yes. It's a whole new day down here. It was very exciting watching the game this past
you're lucky.
against San Diego.
Yep. All right, man.
Yes, well, thank you.
Be cool.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Chris.
Yep.
For listeners, in case you haven't been, you can go to Eric Braeden's website at ericbraeden.com, and you can also
No, it's at eBraeden. Oh, website.
Oh,
yes,
right.
website. Listen, forgive me, all this highfalutin technical stuff, but I guess it's ericbraeden.com. And
then Twitter is eBraeden.
That's it.
Yeah, so follow Eric. He responds to everyone, and he's very you're very very good with your fans. And let me just say thank you so much for this opportunity. I've talked to Melody and about 60% of the current cast, and to be able to have this chance with you today has just been a blessing and an honor. So I would like to invite you back in the spring and catch up with you and see how things are going then.
Anytime, Doug. You're obviously a very nice man, and thank you for doing what you're doing. And be cool.
All right.
So springtime, you bet. Okay.
All right, and give Dale my love too.
I will do that.
Thank you very
much.
Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Good night. Bye bye. All right. Thank you everybody for listening in today with our early afternoon interview with Eric Braeden. I'll be back on Wednesday with Blake Barris, who plays Nick Fallon on Days of Our Lives. Next month, I got a big roster of people coming. I just haven't released the November calendar yet, but I will tell you that Jeannie Cooper is coming, who plays Katherine Chancellor. I'm working on getting Brittany Underwood from Hollywood Heights. Michael Damian, who plays Danny Romolotti, will be back to join us. Donna Mills, as you know from Knots Landing, will be joining me. And got a couple other surprises coming up. So thank you for tuning in. You can follow me at On Air with Doug on Twitter, and I will see you next time. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.